I'm Charlie Pickering. Welcome to The Weekly, where we celebrate ABC reporters going above and beyond, particularly above, in search of a good visual metaphor.
It's been a rollercoaster year for Victoria's landmarks, and while many, like Victoria's Luna Park, are getting back on track, there's bound to be many more ups and downs. Elias Claw, ABC News, Melbourne.
Get your sick bags ready. This is The Week. The winner of the 2023 Women's World Cup hosting rights was announced on Friday, with Australia and New Zealand going up against Colombia. Now remember everyone, we're still in a pandemic, so practice social distancing no matter what.
The host country of the FIFA Women's World Cup 2023, which will be Australia, New Zealand. Congratulations.
Yes, they're all infected, but who cares? We did it! We did it! Where are the balloons? Did we fire the balloon guy? Jeez, these cuts are brutal. The Aussies and Kiwis Win came after two of Australia and New Zealand's biggest rivals dropped out in the lead up to the vote. Japan pulled out so they could focus on getting to their 2021 Olympics, and Brazil pulled out so they could focus on getting to 2021. That left Australia, and New Zealand I suppose, to fight it out with Colombia. And with FIFA judging our bid the best by far, we got the nod from almost 2/3 of the voting countries, with one notable exception.
Oh, I've got a bone to pick with England. Apparently they voted for Colombia and not us.
That's good to see that England has voted in solidity with Europe there. So just remember, next time you have a world war and you call us up, now we'll remember, OK?
Yeah, that's right, England. Lest you forget that lest we won't forget. No one was on the Matildas bandwagon faster than the Prime Minister, who was keen to show his passion for the team.
I thought we should congratulate our Matildas, the bid team.
Hear, hear. Congratulations, Matildas. You've certainly tiddled your way into our hearts. This week, the world passed another frightening milestone.
The number of confirmed coronavirus cases worldwide has officially surpassed 10 million.
10 million cases. It is a tragic... No, not now. No, it's meant to happen in the Matildas. With parts of Australia going weeks or even months since the last case, some were keen to celebrate, like WA Premier Mark McGowan.
One pub was so impressed with the Premier's handling of the crisis, he's shouting everyone named Mark a free pint.
Cheers.
And if that's not fun, my name isn't Mark Markering. But people weren't so happy with their leaders everywhere. In Plaguetoria, corona numbers continued to spike.
Hundreds of thousands of Victorians are getting ready to go back into lockdown.
Police will be out in force, preventing entry to hotspots.
The move came as Victoria recorded another 64 new cases of COVID-19. The state's total sits at 2,159.
The situation was so bad, even the ABC's resident Rhoniophile, Dr. Norman Swan, couldn't get through telling us how bad it was without coughing.
Pardon me.
While the other states were treating Victorians like the kid in the playground with nits.
It's bad news for any Victorians planning a trip to Sydney to watch the footy, with the state government insisting they're not welcome.
The New South Wales Health Minister is now basically telling Victorians to stay away.
Everyone has concerns about Victoria.
I call on all organisations not to interact with citizens from Melbourne at this stage.
Oh, more Melbourne-Sydney rivalry. Who has the better coffee? Who has a functioning respiratory system? I am sick of it. And ABC's Insiders commemorated the frightening spike with a very sensitive musical accompaniment.
This health and economic crisis has a long way to run.
Yes, don't dream it's over. Quite fitting, really, considering this latest wave of outbreaks began because of a crowded house. Now to an update. A few weeks back on the show, I noted that New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern was just a little too keen to rubbish Australia when she announced her country was COVID-free.
Today there are no active cases in New Zealand. New Zealand is currently ahead of Australia in terms of our progress.
We're watching you, Ardern. You can't keep your borders closed forever, and Aussie backpackers have everything. Good one. Hilarious and ominous. So how did my little prediction go?
It's back again. Our zero streak is over after 24 days with confirmation of 2 new coronavirus cases.
They are 2 sisters who travelled from the UK and were given a compassionate exemption to drive from Auckland to Wellington.
Arriving from the UK, the pair flew in from Brisbane on June 7.
So here's the story. 2 Kiwi sisters came back from the UK via Brisbane to Auckland and took a road trip from Auckland to Wellington. But this wasn't any old road trip. The amount of bureaucratic bungling around this journey has turned it into Jacinda Ardern's very own Ruby Princess. The first mistake was letting them leave hotel quarantine in Auckland. It turns out one of the women had mild symptoms, yet they were allowed to leave without being tested. Instead, one of them was simply asked, "Are you okay?" which in Australia is a polite way of saying, "How's your mental health?" whereas in New Zealand, it's apparently a diagnostic tool. Then there's the road trip itself, an 8-hour drive from Auckland to Wellington, which Director General of Health Ashley Bloomfield was adamant the sisters completed without a break.
They travelled from Auckland to Wellington without stopping?
By private vehicle, and they didn't use any public facilities to take a toilet break.
So what did they do?
Well, I won't necessarily go into details, but there is a lot of empty roadside between here and Auckland.
Okie dokie, 8 hours, no petrol, no public toilets, no further questions. All in all, more than 300 people were identified as close contacts from these 2 cases. This episode has exposed New Zealand's lax hotel quarantine procedures, with less than half of the people leaving quarantine that week being tested. And the result?
Today, there is 1 new case of COVID-19. There are 2 new cases of COVID-19. There are 3 new cases of COVID-19 to report.
New Zealand has at least 22 confirmed cases, or almost half a day in Melbourne. And the Prime Minister is under fire.
We have not one case of an individual from quarantine who has passed on COVID to anyone else.
You don't know that.
Outside.
You don't know that because they left the hotels untested.
Mike, yes, we do.
You don't.
Yes, we do.
You don't.
Yes, we do.
You do not. They left the hotels untested.
Wow, a crisis so bad it can make New Zealanders impolite. And you mocked us. Well, good luck getting out of this one, Ardern, is what I would say if they hadn't already returned to 0 new cases. So, good job getting out of that one, Ardern. 3 months after being devastated by the coronavirus, the $111 billion arts industry got some help from the government in the form of a $250 million support package. To help sell this package to the public, the PM called the coolest rock star he knew. And when Daryl Braithwaite wasn't available, he called Guy Sebastian.
Firstly, I would like to thank you guys, especially to your Prime Minister, for listening. You know, you mentioned that you guys were listening, and you really were, and that was evident the other day when we jumped on that Zoom call.
Oh, Guy, you sweet summer child. No one is listening on a Zoom call. But people did notice your duet with the government.
Guy Sebastian has been slammed on social media for appearing at yesterday's press conference with Scott Morrison.
Yes, Guy managed to upset all the people on social media that don't like anyone. But I'm going to defend Guy. He is perfect for this role. Not only does he know a lot about the arts, but Guy, pictured here in a photo he posted from Wuhan last year, also knows a suspicious amount about the coronavirus.
I was in Wuhan in November, so I already, man, I got it. I was pretty much patient 0, so I'd already developed the antibodies and I'm all good.
Oh, hang on, so you had the Rona at one stage?
I can't confirm that I had it, you know. I had a bit of a cough and a cold right after coming back from Wuhan, so I sort of self-diagnosed that I had it.
Oh my God, is Guy the guy responsible? Is he the one that ate the bat?
He sings, spruiked for the government, and he was patient 0? He really is a triple threat. When COVID hit, Scott Morrison boosted the dole to about $1,100 a fortnight and called it job seeker. But now that COVID is just a dangerous Melbourne thing, like hook turns, the PM is preparing to wind job seeker back.
We are getting a lot of anecdotal feedback from small businesses and even large businesses where some of them are finding it hard to get people to come and take the shifts because they're on these higher levels of payment.
So job seeker is keeping job seekers from seeking, but there's a government leaker who wants to tweak job seeker.
This push is also coming from inside the government, at least according to this headline. A report in the Sunday Telegraph suggesting a permanent $75 increase to job seeker payments is being considered.
A huge scoop from the Daily Telegraph, and on behalf of the unemployed, I'd like to thank Delta Goodrum for her generosity. Wow, major relief packages from Delta Goodrem and Guy Sebastian. Sounds like it's about time Boy George did something about homelessness. Sadly, the joy was short-lived, with Social Services Minister Anne Ruston overruling Delta and denying any plans to increase the dole. If you think that's all very confusing, spare a thought for Shadow Resources Minister Joel Fitzgibbon, who was brought on Sunrise to talk about the non-existent plan to hike the dole. And a lot went wrong.
Let's bring in Nationals MP Barnaby Joyce and Shadow Resources Minister Joel Fitzgibbon.
Joel entered the chat as a blurry, paused screen. He then broadcast his personal phone number on national television before magically beaming into the studio sideways. And that's the week.